It's the whole thing's very crazy. I mean, the media is incredibly partisan. I mean, they're not. Almost all the media is left shifted.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird if you talk to somebody who gets all their information from like what I call legacy media. They're living in a different world.
Yeah.
Than if they say are listening to your podcast or getting news from X or just if it's kind of wild. Like
it is very wild.
Like you talked, it's like they're living in an alternate reality.
Oh, there's a lot of people that I talk to that I have to go, where did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the Associated Press, which I call Associated Propaganda, the AP. They ran a international news story saying that DOGE fired air traffic controllers, but we didn't fire any air traffic controllers at all. In fact, we're trying to hire air traffic controllers, not fire them.
Yeah, I saw that. You made a tweet about it, right?
This was not the video I had planned for today. I had these grandiose plans of going for a major hike and we were going to talk about events in the world. But then, things got away from me. I've been working on the insurance. As you know, I made a video about homeowners insurance and I made a video about car insurance. And by the way, I'm saving about $2,000 a year if you want to go back and watch those videos. But I just wanted to show you this. This is a simple little lemon tree that I planted, and it might go somewhere. Who knows? I'm trying to turn my Florida house into a garden, and let's kind of get to the backyard because I wanted to show you what's going on back here real quick. Now look at here. This used to be rock, and I took that out. I mean, it was a major project. And I turned this into a garden, and yeah, there's nothing growing. But you know what? I do want to plant some vegetables in here, and I live in a HOA, and it's a pain in the ass because old people hate you being able to have chickens or grow vegetables. It's just something that they are. But in these are two blueberry bushes, and look at the pineapples that are growing, and look at the blackberry bush. I think I'm going to get some blackberries off of that, but I just kind of wanted to show you all of this because I'm kind of working on it as I go. This is a water barrel. If you have a downspout, you probably should put in a water barrel and be able to. That's an alternative water supply, and you can get a water filter, a backpacking water filter. And that is an alternative water supply for your household. And you can see I'm kind of working on things. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to show you this because these are the things you can do. Now, granted, you probably will never do what I did. It took me months. I dug all the soil out and replaced it with all good black soil. Here in Florida, they use this sandy fill dirt, which you can't grow anything in. And man, I had to dig that out. And I made trip after trip after trip after trip with my car to get rid of all that soil and put in new soil. So it's a pain in the ass to have a garden here in Florida. But I just wanted to kind of show you this. Now let's get right over here. So I'm building a trellis. We're gonna get this on future videos. All this soil has been replaced. I had to buy worms. And these are something you want to think about. So I had to buy worms, and I'm putting worms in there, it's all buffered in by wood. See the wood in the back there, and so this will be my tomato garden, hopefully this year. It's all a matter of time. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to show you this before we get into the geopolitics and everything else. I'm sorry I haven't made a video. I'm just like you. I have to I have to work around the house, and I have to satisfy the HOA and the community, and it's a pain in the butt. I mean, you can see, you know, look at here. I had these feral cats that were coming up, and I was trying to seal them off, and it don't work. They find ways to get back into my yard, but luckily I have a neighbor now that doesn't feed the cats. All right, let's get back to the video.
I'm joined in the studio now by Australian independent journalist Johnny H. Many thanks for coming in. It's nice to see you again.
Pleasure to be here.
So I understand you've just spent 1 week in Kursk. Tell us why you decided to go there and your impressions.
Well, why I've decided to go there is quite obvious. Russia has almost liberated the whole Kursk region. I wanted to see for myself really what's happening there. I've been to Kursk before. So I've been to Kursk before in the middle when it was all under Ukrainian control. I took a lot of footage of refugees and war crimes that were happening in Kursk. So it was a natural progression now that Russia has taken over Kursk to go there. Yeah.
And I guess you had the chance to speak to some of the locals and how they're feeling about everything that's been happening there.
Well, of course, the locals are happy this is happening. I actually went, first I went to Suja, but I went on this mission that we're going to talk about today. I went with a military priest, Father Alexander. And like President Putin said, Ukraine is destroying all the churches in Kursk, or have destroyed, because this is also a religious war. Mm-hmm. So we went and documented about 4 destroyed churches. In every church, the father said prayers for the church. They took out the flag that the soldiers have of Jesus and things like this. And in the last church, or one of the last churches, we witnessed a church that the Ukrainian turned the church in Kazalochnya into a military base. So they knew that Russia would not shell the church, and they made it into a military base. And I documented all. There was even drone boxes of like the Ukraine Amazon delivery of night vision drones. There were drone munitions. There were their rations. There were everything. It was a military base. And unfortunately, also, the priest told me of a horrendous war crime that happened in that church. Is a Russian soldier, actually conscripts, because when the invasion happened, it was all conscripts. He had his ears cut off, his fingers cut off, and his private parts, and they were all put in the church in his helmet.
Wow.
I'm sorry for the audience to listen to this. It was very hard for me to listen to this.
So evidence of war crimes as well.
Yeah.
And you've spent a lot of time extensively covering this conflict since it began. How widespread is this practice with Ukrainian forces, demolishing these holy sites?
It seems to be a new thing in war, because we can see it also in Gaza. All the mosques are being destroyed, and I always say that even war, at least in the old days, had some rules. You don't shoot civilians. You don't damage holy sites. You don't kill priests. And this war, all the rules have been broken. I've seen. I've been in Donetsk, and I've been in Donetsk a couple of Easters, for example, and they shell the churches while the people are in prayer and things like this. I think it's a very common practice, and for some reason, which the orders must come from somewhere else, because Ukrainians are also Orthodox. But for some reason, there's also a war here on Orthodoxy, for sure.
The Ukrainian retreat from the Kursk region, it was reported to be chaotic, and there was heavy losses in manpower and equipment. Is this something that you also saw?
And I've also saw villages that look exactly like Gaza, that there's not only one roof on a house, not one wall on a house. Villages that have been razed to the ground. I was shocked. I didn't expect that, because I've been in the war zone for 2 years. It looks bad. It looks really bad, but it never looked like totally razed to the ground like I saw in the Kursk region. And also in one of the villages that, I forgot the name, it's in my video. I saw Ukrainian soldiers, dead soldiers that had gas masks on them. And I asked the commander that was escorting me, it's like, what is the gas mask? And he said when they retreated, they had to shoot poisonous gas at Russian soldiers so they can retreat safely. Obviously, the soldier did not manage to retreat, so they spray poisonous gas to retreat, and they wore themselves the gas mask.
Like I said, you've been covering this conflict since the beginning. What are some of the standout moments for you?
the standard moments, or the moments that I will not forget, you know. I mean, there's many, many moments like that, but I'll never forget, in the middle of the Kursk invasion, I was interviewing some fresh refugees who just ran away from Suja. And I'll never forget this lady that told me that the Ukrainian soldiers came and they told them, no problem to the kids, go and ride your bicycles. So all the kids jumped on the bicycles and then they shot all the kids dead. There's many, many things like this that I've documented at the time. I've actually personally, together with Ivan Kupil, submitted 5 reports to the United Nations of war crimes and things. I mean, I have never actually covered the war. I've only covered what's happening to the civilians. I've only covered the war crimes. I didn't come here to cover Ukrainian tanks shooting at Russian tanks and vice versa. There's enough people that do that. I'm actually here for peace. I'm here to show how horrible war is. And I have seen some horrible scenes that I don't even want to mention on air and things like this. But yeah, there's been a list of war crimes happen against civilians, and yeah, it's all the time. Yeah.
We've finally reached a point where peace is being spoken about. Now we have Donald Trump in the White House. It's a word that we didn't hear for so long, and now suddenly there's a potential, an idea of a peace deal. But how likely is it, do you think, especially when we have Donald Trump threatening Russia with more sanctions, even more sanctions, if a deal isn't reached soon? How do you feel about that?
Look, I saw this morning, the Trump's threat again. To be honest, I don't think Trump can be trusted. I'm really happy that he's happy to talk with Russia. I'm really happy that he's taken a turn and he's acknowledging Russia as not the fault of this war. You know, he's actually blaming the Biden administration and the thing about joining NATO as the trigger for this war. But can Trump be trusted? No, because every day he wakes up with a different idea. So I personally think Russia needs to tread very carefully, because we've had Minsk 1, we've had Minsk 2, we had Istanbul. We don't want to have a number 4 where Russia is faced with a situation that there's a peace deal and 3 months later they have to fight. Because at the moment, the Ukrainians are on the back foot. All the commanders, and I talk all the time with people on the front line, they all say to me the same thing. Russia has the advantage now. So to stop it now, Russia has to be sure that this peace agreement is like, you know, it's ironclad. It's not something that can be broken in a month or 2. And Ukraine has a chance to regroup. And we see Europe. Europe doesn't want peace, you know? Still, there's a lot of elements in the world that don't want peace. But I tell you, the Russians want peace.
Yeah, they've always said, I mean, Vladimir Putin said from the very beginning, he's always been consistent. He said, we're open to negotiations. We want peace. They've always been clear on their red lines. But then still now we've got Kiev continuing to violate the moratorium on strikes on energy facilities, with 93 Ukrainian drones downed overnight in southern Russia. I mean, what does it say about the trust issue here?
Look, I don't think Russia should allow this. I mean, because they've been violating already for 3-4 days. When I was in Kursk, they were violating, they were actually targeting energy infrastructure and things like this. So Russia's allowed it now for 3-4 days. I think that Russia needs to call it now and not allow it anymore, because it looks like Ukraine are like a little child. You know how a child always tests its boundaries. It looks like they're testing, okay, we'll violate it this day, we'll violate it tomorrow, we'll violate it tomorrow. They won't stop until, unfortunately, like a child needs a smack sometimes, they're behaving irrationally. And always when an empire loses or when a country loses, always when it's in the last moments, the most horrible things happen. So Russia has to be very careful now, because some really rogue element in Ukraine, some radical element in Ukraine can push some wrong button now. It's a really, you know, it's a tricky moment at the moment.
Well, as we said earlier, always hoping for a peaceful resolution sooner rather than later. Many thanks for coming in to speak to us today, Australian independent journalist Johnny H. Good to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, as you can see, the growing season is here in Florida. We're not going to be able to hike trails like this much longer. And I just ran into a spider web, so the spiders are coming out. All right, let's get in. Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. April 11th, 2025. Let's get into it. At the beginning of the video, I like to talk about things that will help you out because everything can't be about geopolitics. So I did want to just hit you with just a couple of quick things. I did 2 videos. One was I changed out the auto insurance, and I went with Allstate. That saved me about $300 every 6 months. I was with Travelers through an intermediate broker. And anyway, but I wanted to just give you some advice. So they did send me a refund check for the auto insurance. And I don't know about you, but I have to keep a local credit union, or I always keep a local bank account. And, you know, whenever you get a check like that, always go in and cash it right away. I mean, you know, or deposit it. Because I'm going to tell you what, I can't tell you the number of times I lose it. And also, there's also an expiration date on those checks. Usually it's only 60 days. And you never know what's going to happen. You could end up in the hospital for 60 days. So anyway, that was the first thing. So huge savings by switching to Allstate. And then the second was the homeowner's policy. And I'm still waiting. Well, actually, I think they're going to direct deposit that refund into my account. My account went from $3,000 a year to $1,100 a year with a $330 home inspection. We did a whole video on that. But these are things that you're going to want to get taken care of. You might be able to get a big savings on that insurance. And I do want to tell you how I live life for just 1 second. You know, I've always been God first. God's always first in my life. And then money, I hate to say it, money, the root of all evil, is second. You know, because if you don't take care of the money situation, you could lose everything, you know. So I always deal with the money, and I'm going to tell you what, it took me over a month to switch that car insurance and, of course, the homeowner's insurance. And I mean, I worked on it just about every daggone day. And but it was worth it. $3,000 savings or so. So I just wanted to throw that out. The next thing is DOGE. DOGE has moved on. They're hitting the Department of Labor now. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So now they found, I believe, if I get these numbers wrong, don't beat me up. But it was 24,000 people over the age of 115 years old that were collecting unemployment. So maybe there's greeters at Walmart, or I don't know. Maybe I didn't realize they were that old. Did you? And then the other figure was we had 28,000 people under the age of 5 and as low as 1 year old that were collecting unemployment.
Countries. You're working on helping the blind see and all of these other things. Is it really come down to the basic, you're aligned with President Donald Trump, who also is a friend of mine, and that you have identified well over $100 billion in waste, fraud, abuse that our federal government never should have been spending? Is that what it comes down to?
Yeah, it turns out when you take away people's, what the money they're receiving fraudulently, they get very upset, and they basically want to kill me because I'm stopping their fraud, and they want to hurt Tesla because we're stopping this terrible waste and corruption in the government. And well, I guess they're bad people. Bad people will do bad things.
Well, I know that overall, you know, financially, in the end, yes, they can hurt you, but the people that they'll end up hurting are the people that work in your dealerships that may risk losing their job. The people that they may end up hurting are the people that work on the line and build the Teslas. They're going to be the ones hurt. And that to me is despicable on their part, just because they might have a political difference or perceived political difference. Let me.
And I can't remember the exact number of millions of dollars, but that was in the hundreds of millions for the 5-year-olds to 1-year-olds. And then, of course, the other one, I can't remember, it might have been about 70 million they were paying out or so for the 115 and older that were collecting unemployment. So DOGE keeps moving on. And I got a quick video because I wanted to show you how, my last video was titled The Democrat Mafia. And the reason that I did that was because they are the mafia. So here's a quick video about Social Security numbers, just to kind of add on to that video. Let's watch that now.
Fox to reveal what's really going on. DOGE exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. DOGE has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a Social Security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, DOGE says 270,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. DOGE also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses, some registered to vote, and DOGE says some actually did vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying, he's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk.
All right, so that kind of showed you what the Democrats were doing. It was called replacement theory, or replacement, not theory, I guess the replacement action was they were working to replace you and me and all the voters with illegal immigrants. And that's, that's why I call them the Democrat Mafia. I don't understand. You got a neighbor who's a Democrat. Why in the hell are they for that? Why do they want their job replaced by an illegal immigrant? Why don't you ask them that sometime? See what they have to say. Yeah, by the way, there was a great, maybe I can find it. If I do, I'll put it right here in the video. But anyway, this guy, he comes up to a house. It was in some Democrat city or something. And he knocks on the door and he says, I understand, you voted to support illegal immigrants. And we just wanted to say we want to thank you for that. And the woman was like, yes, I think that the illegal immigrants, they need all of our money. They need everything, And he says, oh, okay. And then he waves out to this bus. And all of a sudden, all these actors, I'm sure that, but they were supposed to be illegal immigrants, got off of the bus. He says, well, then you won't mind housing all of these illegal immigrants in your house, right? If I can find that. I mean, it was funny as hell. You should have seen that liberal woman's face. No, I don't want all those illegal immigrants in my house. No. And then she slammed the door. It was just precious. Sometimes a good joke goes a long way, doesn't it? It's kind of like Martha's Vineyard. And when DeSantis bust all the illegal immigrants up there, they were supposed to be a sanctuary area. And man, I don't think the illegal immigrants were allowed to stay there more than a day before they got them off of Martha's Vineyard. Okay, so we went over the grifting. Now, here's a good video by Joe Rogan. I apologize for the foul language in this, but he does kind of sum up what it means to pay taxes these days. And I don't know, I just like listening to Joe Rogan. He's so easygoing, he's just laid back. Let's watch that video. All right, so that was Joe Rogan. And then I got one more video for you. We're going to do a long sit down. I don't know which, I've got a number of threads that I want to go through. I'll tell you what, you don't understand how much work it takes to do these threads. Because, you gotta work your way through it. And then I'm cutting and pasting and cutting and pasting. I wish people would just put up, one, like I do. I just put up one post on X, at ThatCyberSecurityGuy on X. I just do one post and boom, I'm done with it. By the way, got 1,000 views on that Democrat Mafia video. That ain't bad for me. I'm just a little tiny fish. Don't make no money. But let's watch Elon Musk, because he was talking about the fact that when you eliminate the grifting Democrats from their money supply, they threaten your life. Let's watch that video. All right, so that was Elon Musk. I guess the last thing to kind of talk about, and I'm glad I didn't cover it at all, was Trump's tariffs. And I'm not an economist, so I wasn't qualified to comment on that, and I'm glad that I didn't. And man, what a roller coaster ride we've had with the stock market. But I will say this, it's working out pretty good so far. Trump, he's put a 90-day pause And from what I understand, 70 countries have come back and want to negotiate, which is exactly what we needed to do. Now, I think he kept the 10% tariff in place. So, and then, of course, we got the trade war with China. Somehow we have to let China save face. That's more of an honor thing. You know, Trump kind of went about that the wrong way, maybe, you know, but because we get so much. I mean, I hope you got your pharmaceuticals stocked up if you depend on blood pressure medication or any of that sort of thing. But yeah, because, you know, all that comes from China, unfortunately. You know, it'll take about 4 years, 5 years before we can develop a manufacturing base. And who's to say what happens? I mean, if a Democrat gets back in office, we're going to be right back where we started from. All the grifting will start happening again. The country, I mean, by the way, inflation, last I heard, was between 1 and 2%. The price of groceries, I don't know, they've come down, I mean, but they're still, you know, with inflation, they're still more expensive than they were, but I mean, they have come down in price. So, I mean, you know, Trump's only been in there a little while. The other thing I wanted to point out, and I'm getting tired of listening to people on X or reading people on X. You know, Dan Bongino's been putting out some tweets, and he's saying, look, man, just be patient. You know, we're going to get some people, get some bad people and put them in jail, is the way I interpret the tweets, okay? I'm putting words in Dan Bongino's mouth. That isn't specifically. He's just saying, look, we're working on it. Because these things take time. You got to understand. Shit, has it been 100 days since Trump got in office? Seems like it's been a year, doesn't it? Oh, my God. So, yeah, you know, just be patient. Eventually, Trump's going to put some, I mean, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, they're going to, some people, I'm sure, will go to jail eventually, you know. But it's going to take them time to develop a case. Just like it would take time for us to bring manufacturing back. You know, we ain't going to do it in a year. That could take 4 or 5 years. All right, so I think of something else. When we get to the sit-down portion of the video, we'll get that in just a second. All right.
This incredible 16 seconds pulled up by the researcher. Norm Eisen said his good friend, Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, was not corrupt and that John went to the Czech Republic for a week so that they could spend more time working on American rule of law issues together.
John Roberts is not corrupt. I know the Chief Justice well. He stayed when I was ambassador, stayed under my roof, came and spent a week with us. We worked on American and European rule of law issues together.
Did you hear that? John Roberts, while Norm Eisen was the U.S. ambassador to the Czech Republic, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, yes, that John Roberts stayed under Norm Eisen's roof, stayed with him for a week as Norm Eisen and Chief Justice John Roberts rigged the judicial system in Europe, worked on European rule of law issues. Now again, rule of law is their weasel word phrase for saying it's not a rule of kings where, you know, no one is above the law. So the law has rule. The law rules over you, not man, not a king, not a president. It's all about the law controls all. So if you control the law, if law rules all, and then you have these programs like this John Roberts, Norm Eisen program in the Czech Republic to control the law, then you control everything. So having a program, a rule of law program, sometimes will be called governance programs or anti-corruption programs, but they're all about control over the judges, the prosecutors, the courts, the law schools. So this is what we're running into right now with all these district court judges who are nullifying everything Trump does, blocking him from shutting down agencies, blocking him from firing people. This is what it looks like when you've got these rule of law programs in a foreign country and they try to change their laws or they try to clean up their country. And I actually want to get into some of these documents in a bit here. But Now, Norm Eisen lived in a very peculiar place in the Czech Republic. He had a special house. There you go. Prague Palace. Norm Eisen, with the former president of the Czech Republic in October 2011. The last palace in the next battle. Norm Eisen tells the epic story of democracy's long victory in Europe through a house's history. 7 years ago, as the new U.S. ambassador to the Czech Republic, again, head of the State Department for all things Czech Republic, Norm Eisen moved into one of Prague's most beautiful homes, a 150-plus room Beaux-Arts mansion with a sweeping curved facade. He soon heard fascinating tales about its previous residents. A German general, one of Czechoslovakia's richest men. Okay, so he stayed in a 150-plus room mansion. So when he goes on and he says,
I know the Chief Justice well.
I know the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, well.
He stayed when I was ambassador, stayed under my roof,
He stayed under my roof. So he stayed in Norm Eisen's 150-room mansion.
Came and spent a week with us. We worked on...
He came and spent a week with us. We worked on...
American and European rule of law issues together.
We worked on American and European rule of law issues. I want to know what exact issues they worked on. What issues, what American and European rule of law issues did Norm Eisen and John Roberts, staying at Norm Eisen's house, work on for a week? Was it rule of law issues in Romania, in France, obviously in the Czech Republic? Because if you remember, Norm Eisen was effectively doing this like regime change operation through arresting all the political opponents. But he said American and European rule of law issues. I want every single one of these rule of law programs completely declassified. This is one of my side quests right now.
All right, before I get to sit down, let's get a little scenery on the video here, because I'll be at the sit down portion of the video shortly. Anyway, another little tidbit for you that I didn't know. I just picked up some tomato plants. Now, I am the worst at growing tomatoes. Every time I grow them, they usually die on me. Now, I got to build a trellis, and hopefully I'll make a video on how to build a trellis eventually. So we'll get a video on that, because you have to. And by the way, well, you'll see when I build the trellis, but it'll be a string that hangs down from a 2x4 about 8 feet off the ground. And that's the only way I know. Oh, check out the bird. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's a squirrel too. Cut the video on just the perfect time, didn't I? Anyway, you can see the sit-down benches right up here. So, but anyway, so they gave me some advice on planting those tomato plants. And I'd never heard of this before. But she said put the plant all the way in the ground, almost up to about 3/4 of the green stem, and just have the very top of the tomato seedling sticking up out of the ground. And she says that'll offer it a lot of support, and that'll build out that root base. I'd never heard of such a thing. And then she said to sprinkle some Epsom salt. I have Epsom salt. And by the way, I do know I have a spray bottle of aspirin too. That's good for tomato plants as well. You can get a YouTube video on that. But I'm looking for the bird. Sorry, I don't see him. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to move on along. But the Epsom salt idea was and planting the plant 3/4 of the way in the ground. So, you know, I've been telling you, grow a garden, grow a garden, grow a garden, grow a garden. If you can have chickens, get some chickens, get some chickens. You know, nothing better than fresh eggs if you had your own chickens. I understand if you live in the city. Me, I'm in a retirement community. I can't have chickens. But anyway, so that was two things. And then Todd Starnes came out with a new statistic. The IRS was trying to change their website. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is I've been telling you I'm going to put up a website eventually. And I'm going to post my book for free on the website once I get it up. But I'm going to tell you the best tool to use is Joomla with SP Page Builder to build a website. But I was just telling that story because the IRS said it was going to take them 103 days to move the login button from the left side of the web page to the right side of the web page. And DOGE came in and they said, well, what's the problem? And DOGE said, well, let me get some of our engineers. It took DOGE 72 minutes to move the login button on the IRS website. I mean, I just heard it from Todd Stearns. I assume it's a true story. So isn't that, I tell you, the government, anyway, that's why I played you that tax video from Joe Rogan, just to tell you how stupid and inefficient the government is. My God. And then I wanted to play, we're going to do a quick, this is about a 7-minute video, but I think it illustrates my point that China is not going to be a pushover as far as this trade war goes. I mean, a lot of people don't understand the progress they've made and how big their economy is. But this is a 7-minute video on a dam that they built, and it's just fascinating to me. And you can speed through it if you want, and then we'll get to the sit-down portion of the video. But I mean, this tells you what China is really all about. Let's watch that video.
On Christmas Day, the 25th of December, 2024, the People's Republic of China celebrated the occasion of the 13th anniversary of the inauguration of the Three Gorges Dam, which is still to this day the largest and most impressive hydroelectric project ever accomplished in human history. Spanning across China's Yangtze River, the Three Gorges Dam cost roughly $34 billion to construct, and it produces enough electricity to fully power all of the needs of a moderately sized modern country like the entire Netherlands. So titanic is the scale of the Three Gorges Dam that its construction has resulted in a measurable impact on the Earth's rotation that'll last for millions of years long after our own species goes extinct. Daylight hours are now 0.06 microseconds longer than they were before the dam. However, only a few days after the Three Gorges Dam's 13th anniversary, the Chinese government made an astonishing surprise announcement. It had just approved of another brand new hydropower project that will somehow absolutely dwarf the scale of the Three Gorges Dam in just about every way conceivable. Unlike the Three Gorges Dam, which was constructed almost in the center of China, this new dam that China announced, which still doesn't have an official name yet, will be built in an incredibly remote, sparsely populated part of the country deep within the towering Himalayan mountains of Tibet. Unlike the Yangtze, it'll also be built on a river that until now you've probably never even heard about, Tibet's Yarlung-Tsangpo River. But whenever it's eventually finished, the Chinese government expects that this new dam built across this remote and obscure Himalayan river will be capable of producing an astonishing 300 billion kilowatt hours of electricity per year, roughly triple the power capacity that's currently manageable by the Three Gorges Dam. The scale of this power will be so colossal that all on its own, this new Himalayan megadam would be fully capable of providing for all of the annual electricity needs of modern-day Germany. And in order to complete it within this very remote and geographically challenging environment, the Chinese government projects that it will end up costing around 1 trillion yuan, or about 137 billion US dollars, about 4 times the price tag that it cost to finish the Three Gorges Dam, and making it among the most expensive engineering mega projects to ever be attempted in human history, on a comparable scale to the cost of the International Space Station program. And China will not only have to overcome the financial challenges to finish the dam out either, it'll have to overcome the construction site's unique geographic and geologic challenges as well. Massive risks of earthquakes and landslides, and the sharp geopolitical objections to the project that have already come from nations further downstream the river, like India and Bangladesh, who fear that China could be building the new dam to weaponize a significant amount of their water supplies during an intensifying period of climate change and water scarcity, leaving tens of millions of their citizens' water needs at the veritable mercy of Beijing. And in order to fully understand and appreciate how utterly insane this whole project really is, it helps to start out with the geography and the history of the river where this new dam is being built on. The wild river that before this video you probably never even heard of, the Yarlung-Tsangpo. An utterly raw and untamed river, the Yarlung Po begins high up in the glaciers of Tibet as so many other of Asia's greatest rivers do. It flows from the west of Tibet to the east for roughly 1,600 kilometers before it suddenly and violently U-turns at this location known as the Great Bend, before then radically shifting its course to the south through India and later Bangladesh, where it empties out into the Bay of Bengal and where it respectively becomes known as the more well-known Brahmaputra River in India and later as the Jamuna River in Bangladesh. While the river is still known as the Yarlung Po as it flows through Tibet and China, it is the highest elevated major river that can be found anywhere on the Earth, with an average elevation of about 4,000 meters above sea level, nearly as high as the highest peaks in the Alps are. Flowing through the Himalayan mountains themselves, the river is located in such a remote, sparsely populated, and difficult to reach part of the world that for most of human history, it wasn't even entirely clear if the Yarlung Po and the lower Brahmaputra in India were even the same river at all. In the late 19th century, there was significant speculation among geographers that the two rivers were indeed probably the same, but there had yet to be any scientifically conclusive proof. The quest to become the first to prove that they were the same river was even further hyped up by the peculiar differences in elevation that was measured between them, since the Brahmaputra River was thousands of meters lower in elevation than the Yarlung Po was. This led to runaway speculation at the time that somewhere deep in the then uncharted and unexplored wilds of Tibet, the two rivers could have been linked by the biggest waterfall on the planet, which only further encouraged daring explorers to set off into the Himalayas in search of the proof. It ultimately wouldn't be all the way until the year 1913 when an expedition finally confirmed that the Yarlung Po and the Brahmaputra were indeed the same river. And although no massive single waterfall was discovered linking them as many had initially hoped, what they actually did end up discovering was arguably even more impressive, and is still nothing less than one of the most poorly known about great natural wonders on the planet. From its source high in Tibet to where it becomes the Brahmaputra lower in India, the Yarlung Po has to roar down through nearly 8,000 meters of elevation. Around the Great Bend of the Yarlung Po, where the river violently arcs for roughly 500 kilometers and makes that sharp U-turn toward India, there's an especially violent 160-kilometer long or so section of it, where the river rapidly plunges in elevation by more than 2,000 meters. The steepest drop of any major river on the planet, and which forms a gorge that's roughly 3 times the depth of the Grand Canyon in the United States, as measured from the nearby mountain summit to the Yarlung Po's riverbed. In fact, this canyon throughout the Great Bend that the river carves through the Himalayas here is now widely recognized as being both the longest and the deepest canyon anywhere on the Earth's surface, which has earned it the nickname as the Yarlung Po Grand Canyon. It is believed that for years, if not even decades, the Chinese government was also well aware of the Yarlung Po's enormous hydroelectric potential and was quietly busy researching the feasibility of harnessing it just behind the scenes. You see, China possesses by far the largest latent hydropower potential out of all of the world's countries today, with enormous water volumes crashing down through the country in multiple giant rivers from the mountains in provinces like Tibet, Sichuan, and Yunnan. China possesses nearly 3 times the amount of hydropower potential as the United States possesses, and roughly double the amount of hydropower potential as Brazil, the country with the second highest potential globally. Tibet alone represents roughly 30% of China's total nationwide hydropower potential, and all on its own, Tibet has nearly the same amount of hydropower potential as the entire United States has. And yet, Tibet is extremely underdeveloped, geographically rugged, and sparsely populated. It's basically the size of the entire southwestern United States, and yet its population is only about 3.6 million people, about the same size as just the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area in the US state of Minnesota. As such, Tibet's enormous hydropower potential that's just sitting there is almost entirely undeveloped still. Tibet's massive and still largely untapped hydropower potential will have to be finally cracked open. Across the country, China's already built more than 20,000 dams that are higher than 15 meters just since the 1950s, and hydropower already accounts for China's second biggest source of electricity.
Let's get the first read in here. If you didn't know, Trump fired the NSA director, can't remember the name, and then the person underneath them, because they were against him and everything he was trying to accomplish. Well, I've been trying to get on the health topic, so I'm trying to do MAGA and MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. And if you didn't watch the last video, I included a clip in there about food and everything else. But this is a good thread by Warren English, the War English. And it says, Big Pharma's perfect disease, cancer. It makes them rich, it's hard to treat, and it lasts for years. After 4 years in the pharmaceutical industry, here are 7 actions you can take to naturally reduce your risk of cancer. And some of these you should already know because I've talked about them in previous videos, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to go through this thread because I thought this is a very good thread. So sugar addiction. Cancer cells thrive on glucose. High sugar intake creates the perfect environment for tumor growth. Cut these out. Sugary drinks, processed carbs, artificial sweeteners. Stabilize your blood sugar with whole foods instead. And we got a quick video on that. Let's watch that.
Cancer loves sugar. The fact is that a cancer cell consumes 15 times the glucose of any other cell. Cancer also loves an acid environment. The most acid-forming foods are meat, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, and guess what is the most acid substance you can put into your body? Refined sugar. Nothing wrong with the sugar cane. All those minerals alkalize it up, but when they extract the sugar out of the sugarcane plant, it becomes a pure acid. Cancer hates it when you stop the sugar. Cancer hates oxygen. Cancer is not happy when you create an alkaline environment. We're going to starve that cancer. How do you starve it? To starve it, you've got to know what it loves. It loves glucose. And so we suggested 6 weeks, no sugar, no honey, no sweet at all.
All right. So then the toxic overload. Your environment is full of hidden carcinogens, plastics, hormone disruption, seed oils, oxidative damage, processed meats, nitrates, chemical cleaners, toxins. The simple fix, go natural whenever you can. And I'm going to add to this. I don't know if it's in the video or not because I haven't watched it. But one of the things is a lot of detergents, a lot of, the softeners and stuff like that, they come with fragrances, okay? And even your soap has a fragrance in it. Those fragrances are toxic, man. You should get anything without a fragrance. Not only is it good for your skin not to use fragrances, but it's also a carcinogen that you don't want. But let's watch this video right now.
We have cancer rates rising, testosterone declining, and one of the reasons I think this is happening is these cleaning products right here are definitely a factor in that. Now we need to look at ingredients in here. When you wash your clothes with something like this, it does leave a residue on your clothes. Your skin is your body's largest organ and can absolutely absorb different chemicals and compounds into your skin. I would not recommend using these. What I do for my laundry is I add some distilled white vinegar. Overall, these companies want to convince you that you have to dump Blue One and artificial fragrances on your clothes to keep them clean. It's just not true. Human beings have only done that for a small amount of time in human history, and our health seems to be declining, so look into this stuff, and I probably wouldn't use it. Use distilled white vinegar. How this works is it has a very high acidity level. This cuts through dirt, grease, grime, pathogens. You can get a lot of cleaning done with just white vinegar. You can even use it as a laundry detergent. This is what I do. And a lot of people say, well, aren't your clothes going to smell like vinegar? They actually don't when it's rinsed out. You can also pour this into a sprayer bottle, put some essential oils in there, or just some lemon, and you have an amazing countertop cleaning solution right there that's completely non-toxic. We always have a few tubs of this at the house, and it's what we use for cleaning, and it doesn't make your house smell like vinegar. When you first spray it and wipe it, it smells like vinegar for about a minute or two, then it completely dissipates. Let me know in the comments if you've heard about this, or if you've tried this, or what you use for cleaning at your house.
All right, so that was that video. Nutrient deficiency. Modern diets lack cancer-fighting nutrients. Add these to your plate daily. Wild fish for omega-3s. Berries for antioxidants. Cruciferous veggies, broccoli and kale. And I wanted to add, daggone it. What's the, it's a, I'll get it up above in the video because I just bought some excellent on hot dogs and everything else. And I'm not talking about sauerkraut is of the same family. Anyway, I'll get you that. And garlic and turmeric, and I already gave you in the last video the recipe for golden milk, which I forgot to add ginger in that recipe, so be sure and add that. So eat real food and ditch the processed junk. Let's watch that video.
When it comes to your health, there's nothing like getting your omega-3s. And many of you may not like sardines, but if you like rainbow trout, I highly recommend it. Here you can get smoked rainbow trout and olive oil. And trout is one of the greatest sources of protein, with 3 ounces containing about 19 grams. It's also one of the richest omega-3s content of all fish in the ocean. And why is this important? Because our body cannot produce omega-3s. Omega-3s will help your heart, your brain, your eyes, and it affects every cell membrane throughout your entire body. It can help metabolic syndrome. It reduces inflammation, reduces bad cholesterol as well as your triglycerides. It reduces a fatty liver. It helps menstrual pains. It helps improve your skin health as well as your sleep. So, start eating your sardines or your trout or any fatty fish and make sure you're getting your omega-3s because your body will love you.
All right, so that was that. Now, chronic inflammation. Inflammation is basically cancer's best friend. Reduce it by cutting sugar intake, eliminating seed oils, managing stress levels, and avoiding gluten if sensitive. Inflammation equals fertile ground for cancer cells, and let's watch that video.
Did you know that inflammation fuels the growth of cancer cells? There is a strong link between inflammation and cancer. So first of all, let's talk about inflammation. It's a natural response. You're supposed to have inflammation to an injury or an infection. But the problem is that when it becomes chronic and consistent, it causes a lot of issues: heart disease, autoimmune issues, and cancer. In fact, inflammation can actually promote the growth and spread of cancer cells. When your body is constantly inflamed, it creates an environment that's more welcoming to cancer cells and allows them to thrive and spread more easily. That's why it's so important to address any chronic inflammation that you have and work on reducing it. So what can you do to manage inflammation and prevent cancer? Well, you know it always starts with nutrition, an anti-inflammatory diet, intermittent fasting. You also have to incorporate movement into your life, especially outdoors, and you need to learn how to manage your stress. I know, easier said than done, but it's just a TikTok, and we have to start somewhere. 2 great anti-inflammatory supplements are omega-3 and turmeric. Those of you listening who are already battling with cancer, first of all, I'm sending you love and good energy. It's important that you work with your medical team not only to manage the cancer, but also to address any chronic inflammation that you might be having. Reducing inflammation can help make the cancer treatments more effective and improve your overall quality of life. I hope this helps. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, so that was interesting. Gut dysbiosis. 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. Poor gut health equals weakened cancer defense. Here's how to fix your gut. Eat prebiotic fiber, add fermented foods, limit processed foods, and avoid unnecessary antibiotics. You know, one of the things bad about doctors is, if you have a virus, an antibiotic is not going to help you out. And yet, a lot of times, they just say, well, we're going to give you an antibiotic. If you can do without the antibiotic and fight it. In my last video, I showed you various, like the flu bomb that she went over. You might want to go back and watch that video. I'm not going to cover it again, but all right, let's watch that video now.
More and more, we're hearing about the microbiome. And again, I just did this podcast with Will Bulsiewicz, who's just super bullish on sprouts and essentially plant diversity and increasing your fiber intake. People want to know where you get your protein, but the truth is none of us have a problem meeting our protein requirements, but 97% of people are fiber deficient. We need to be eating more fiber. The science is incontrovertible. And when you look at sprouts, not only are they super high in antioxidants, they're anti-inflammatory, they have these anti-cancer properties. Also, they're incredibly good for your gut flora and your microbiome. And the more we learn about how important that is and the interrelationship between your microbiome and your well-being in general, or how it's contributing to disease, it's becoming more and more incumbent upon us to be paying attention to these things and trying to serve our microbiome in the best way possible.
All right. Vitamin D deficiency. Low vitamin D equals high cancer risk, proven in multiple studies. Simple fixes: daily sun, 20 to 30 minutes, wild salmon and egg yolks, get levels tested and supplement if needed. Most Americans are deficient in this. Now, if you don't watch Dr. John Campbell, he was saying vitamin D was very important in the treatment of COVID. back during the when, and he got banned off of YouTube. They said, "Oh no, you can't vitamin D. That's the natural. It was just like natural immunity didn't work. There's no natural immunity. The only thing that would work is to get the jab. Get the jab. Get the jab. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Get 6 feet apart. Get 6 feet apart." Hope you know that was all a psyop, right? All right. Well, let's watch this video on vitamin D.
Low vitamin D, which occurs in about 60% of the population, is associated virtually with every bad thing, including a smaller brain. So if you want to have a smaller brain, never go in the sun, never test your vitamin D level, and never take a supplement. Brand new study out just last week. People who take a vitamin D supplement have 40% decreased risk of getting Alzheimer's disease.
All right, so there you go. And then cellular damage buildup. Your body needs to remove damaged cells before they can become cancers. Activate this process with regular fasting, 16.8 or 24-hour periods, quality sleep, 7 to 9 hours, daily movement, reducing stress, and this is your body's natural protection. And let's watch that video.
What happens every few hours, a 3-day water fast? Hours 0 to 12, you're still digesting some of the food, your insulin is still a little high. Remember, the higher the insulin is, the more resistant you are to insulin. For longevity purposes, we want to be sensitive to insulin. The less insulin it takes to regulate our blood sugar, the longer our lifespan. Hours 12 to 18, fat burning begins. Insulin starts to fall, and the body is beginning to enter a state of ketosis where it's shifting from burning sugar to beginning to burn fats. Between hours 18 and 24, ketosis is well underway, and a hormone called glucagon is rising. It counteracts the action of insulin by stimulating the liver to turn stored glucose into sugars. Now, between 24 and 48 hours, this is when the real magic begins. Autophagy, the body turning on itself to become more efficient at waste elimination, repair, detoxification. You're literally cleaning your body out at a cellular level. Now, between hours 48 and 54, human growth hormone surges at this point to help us repair tissues. Not just muscle, but all kinds of tissues in the body have receptors for growth hormone, and this actually helps with the repair process, and it helps us better sustain prolonged periods of caloric restriction. Now, hours 54 to 72, insulin is increasing its sensitivity, and autophagy, this process of cellular turnover and regeneration, peaks.
All right, so that's I think that's about it for the thread. The bottom line, cancer isn't always just bad luck. These 7 factors are within your control, regardless of genetic predisposition. Prevention is the best cure. It's in your hands, not the healthcare systems. All right, so that was, wasn't that a good thread? I thought that was really good. And then, of course, we got some other posts in here. I'm not going to get into them now because the video is getting pretty long in the tooth. You guys, peace out. Stay free. I hope you get a lot out of these videos. I know that I do making them. It's a lot of fun. And I will promise you, I will get to work on the website. I had to take care of the insurance first. Money first, or money second, God first. Peace out. Stay free. I'm sure we'll come up with something on the way back. I'm just getting started on the way back, so let's get going. All right, on the way back, let's get a little reading here. I have to get everything situated. So, by the way, didn't get much publicity, but I tell you, I'm all for it, man. Trump signed an executive order to bring back showers. So, if you didn't know, the Democrats were limiting the water pressure for your showers, and so you couldn't. I've been to Home Depot. I said, look, man, I want a shower massage. It's going to beat the crap out of me. Oh, we don't sell those. They don't make them anymore because the Democrats didn't want. They were worried about the water. And by the way, the flushing of the toilets in California, that created a lot of problems with their sewage system because without the water coming from the toilets to move everything along in those pipes, they created a major headache for themselves because they were limiting the water so much in California. Anyway, I tell you, The Democrats are batshit crazy, aren't they? I can't be around a Democrat, man. I don't know how y'all do it. I can't be around a Democrat. No way, no how. Anyway, so we got some more statistics here while you're enjoying the scenery. Hopefully you're enjoying the scenery. So this is great work by the U.S. DOL, a Secretary LCD, and Sterling 47. Canceling 577 million in America Last grants for 237 million in savings, including, and I'm going to read these to you one by one, probably hadn't heard of these. They canceled 10 million for gender equity in the Mexican workplace. Oh my God. And Democrats are for this, man! Democrats are for this. Oh my God. Okay, let's just keep going. Calm down. Calm down. 12.2 million for worker empowerment in South Africa. 6.25 million for improving respect for workers' rights in agricultural supply chains in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Oh my God. You know, on that vein, did you hear the Democrat? What was the woman? She goes, that voter ID is racist because black people don't know how to get an ID. If I was a black person, I'd be insulted all to hell. I mean, she was basically implying that black people are too stupid to know how to go get an ID. I mean, I don't know about you. I see black people on planes all the time. They got to have an ID to fly. And I'll tell you what, my second mother, she was black. She would have slapped me silly if I told her. I'll give you her name. She's dead now. Geraldine. She would. If I told her, Geraldine, do you have an ID? She would have looked at me like I was batshit crazy. Anyway, oh man, I'm telling you, I get off on a tangent there. 6.25 million for improving respect for workers' rights and agricultural supply chains. Okay, we just did that one, sorry. 5 million for elevating women's participation in the workplace in West Africa. Oh my God. 4.3 million for assisting foreign migrant workers in Malaysia. 3 million to enhance Social Security access and worker protections for internal migrant workers in Bangladesh. Oh my God. 3 million for safe and inclusive work environments. I don't even know where this is. Lesotho? Lesotho? Where the hell is that at? Oh man, I'm telling you. And the Democrats are all for this garbage. One little factoid on the shower is, I don't know if you knew, LBJ, Democrat, he spent 5 years because he wanted to increase the pressure of the shower in the White House. I mean, well, his request. It took him 5 years to satisfy his request. So here was a Democrat back then who wanted water pressure for his shower. And I mean, it was an elaborate upgrade. I mean, like 5 nozzles, one hits it at the bottom blue. I got a call coming in. We'll get it going here in a sec. It's funny, I was just talking about that voter law, and then Todd Stearns comes on. It's in Georgia. They're calling it voter suppression if you have to show an ID to vote. That's voter suppression according to a Democrat. But I had to get this tree on the video. Look at this thing. See how the limbs come down to the ground over there? I mean, I'm almost expecting the tree to get up and start walking away. Look at the one over here. Look at the size of that thing. See that limb coming down over there? And of course you got these trees right here. That's why I do this hike. It's just so crazy that, thank God we haven't killed all the trees. Let's get the tree from a distance so that you can see it. I'll keep it on these trees over here. And now let's look back at that monster. There it is right there. And so now you can really see it. Don't you just think like a headless horseman's going to come busting out of that thing? Voter suppression if you have to show an ID. That's what a Democrat thinks. They think that people are too stupid to get an ID. I mean, unbelievable. You know what that's all about. It has nothing to do with voter suppression. It's because Democrats, they're the mafia. They want to cheat on everything. They want to grift on everything. You got a Democrat friend, they're a grifter. 100% grifter. Democrat, grifter. Just don't even call them a Democrat. Just say, hey, grifter. You know, that's your friend, that Democrat. Let's get some wildlife on the video. Look at that beetle. Hopefully I'm getting him on the video. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Climbing up the tree. All right. Cool looking beetle, huh? All right, we got a turtle here. Check him out. There, well, I was scaring him. I'm sorry, dude. I ain't gonna bother you. Just getting you on the video. Cool, huh? Look at his head. All right.
Getting pretty ugly. House Speaker Mike Johnson issuing an open threat now, saying that Congress has authority to stop providing funding to federal courts. Listen to what the Speaker said just a little while ago.
We do have authority over the federal courts, as you know. We can eliminate an entire district court. We have power funding over the courts and all these other things. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. So stay tuned for that.
All right, Jay, let's get right to it. This is all centered around the Alien Enemies Act and whether deportations fall under the president's Article 2 powers. So what's the reaction in Congress now to what the Speaker just said today?
Well, there are Republicans up here on the Hill, Kira, who want Johnson, frankly, to go further and support impeaching judges who politically have shown that they, or not politically rather, but legally show that they disagree with the administration. The accusation from the administration is that these judges are acting politically, but these judges and other judges, all the way up to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, have said that these judges are acting within their constitutionally appropriate powers of passing judgment upon what the executive branch does, and either delaying it from going into effect with restraining orders and things of the like. But what Republicans here on Capitol Hill have done is that they want to impeach those judges that they believe are impeding the president's will and action here. Johnson has not supported that publicly. This is as far as he's gone, saying that Congress has the power of the purse. They can control what districts are allocated in which way, the funding and how these district courts are drawn and things of that nature. So this is some of the administration wants Johnson to do to try to set up this clash between Congress, the executive branch, and the courts. But he's not going as far as some Republicans, including Elon Musk, by the way, have pushed for, which is this swift impeachment of various judges that this administration views as a problem.
What's really crazy to me is when people say the rich should pay more taxes. Okay, fine. But where do you think that's going? Where's that going? Where is the money going? Is the money going to the federal government? Do you think they're good at it? Do you think they're good at managing your money? Have you paid attention to all the shit Elon's fucking uncovered? 37% is when you make over $609,000 a year. That's you, motherfucker.
Yeah, well, that's me last month.
This is the thing. It's like, I'm happy to pay tax if I thought that they were doing a great job. But it's just you are being strong-armed into giving money to people that do a really shitty job of protecting your money and investing it in the country. It's a lot of it is going to bureaucracy and bullshit and a bunch of things that you don't have any say in. If you could opt out of it, if you could imagine if you pick what if you had a whole tax sheet, would you like your money to go to? Would you like your money to go to overthrowing governments? No. What if the federal government's budget was entirely based on the will of the people? You get to choose. How much of your money you want to put into drone strikes in Yemen? I say I don't want zero of my money going to that.